superior lies black as coal glass. Tonight's account concerns a vessel that no registry lists, yet every old sailor swears existed.
Mac, why do sailors keep telling the same stories, even when they don't make sense? Because some of them aren't meant to explain anything. They're meant to be remembered.
That doesn't sound like science.
It isn't, but it's where science usually begins.
So these aren't ghost stories? No. They're observations, repeated by people who spend long enough in places most others avoid. And tonight's account comes from someone who spent his life out there. Captain John Mercer.
And there are ships that choose when to leave. Among lakemen, stories are told only after midnight watch, when the radar hum is steady and Superior lies black as coal glass. One of those stories concerns a vessel no registry lists, yet every old sailor swears existed. The Marquette Belle. She was said to have been launched in 1958 out of a Lake Erie yard whose records later burned in a boiler fire. Men spoke of her as if they'd seen her pass. Steel hull. Her master, eventually, was Alfred Karl. Karl wasn't born a captain. The Belle was the only ship he ever signed on to, and the only one he ever signed off from. He came up the hard way. Deckhand, wheelsman, mate. In November 1975, he stood watch on the Belle the night the SS Edmund Fitzgerald vanished. No distress call reached them, only a radar echo that faded where no land lay. Karl never forgot how the lake looked afterward, empty, as if something had been erased. From that night onward, he kept notebooks. Wind speeds, wave intervals, barometer drops. In the pilot house, the radar hummed and the coffee tasted faintly of iron. He wrote like a man cataloging a language only storms spoke. Shipmates joked he studied weather the way priests studied scripture. By 1980, he had command of the Belle. He ran her quiet and exact. No wasted helm corrections. No shouted orders. He spoke softly enough that men leaned in to hear him. Under his watch, he never missed a schedule and never called for tug assistance. Dock bosses said she handled like a vessel half her length. Karl credited ballast trim, prop pitch, and patience. Sailors credited Karl. He treated the ship as more than steel. He called her a witness. He never stepped aboard without touching the rail first. When fog rolled in, he would walk the deck plates and rest his palm against the bulkhead as if listening. Crews swore he could feel pressure changes before instruments showed them. Twice he altered course hours before charts warned of gale cores. He never explained how. In port, he recorded old captains and retired engineers, wheelhouse tapes, engine room recollections. He said the lakes kept memories, and someone ought to write them down before they rusted away. The only time he was seen to defy a man outright was November 11, 1990. The owner came aboard during inspection and suggested cutting crew to save money. Karl listened without expression. When the man stepped toward the pilot house, Karl moved once and blocked the doorway. His hand rested flat against the steel frame. "You can own the steel," he said. "You don't own the ship." Witnesses said he added something else, barely audible. "I'm on watch." The owner laughed. Karl did not. Within a week, he was relieved of command.
After that, stories began. Dock workers claimed they saw Karl walking piers at night long after his ship had sailed. A watchman in Buffalo swore he spotted him pacing a rail that wasn't there. Radio operators reported a calm voice threaded through static during storms, repeating a phrase no one expected to hear over open marine band. Still on watch. He was found once at midnight on a pier, whispering to dark water. Not long after, he was committed to a state asylum. Even men who believed him stopped answering his calls. Nurses said he kept his palm against the radiator pipes for hours, listening for weather that wasn't there, and once saluted a passing storm no one else could hear. In 1993, he died on Christmas Eve, seated in a chair, logbook open beside him. The last line he wrote was not weather data. It was a question. Why don't people listen? Some said his ashes were taken out where she used to run. Old hands claimed the lake got him back in the end. All agreed he went back to his watch.
She was running oar across a Superior so calm it looked poured. No wind, no swell, no warning. The compass quivered. The gyro slipped 3 degrees off true. Then alarms. Water in the forward holds. The crew abandoned ship and watched from lifeboats as she settled fast, stern last, sliding through glass-flat water without a sound. Divers later found her resting upright on the lake bed, not far from where the Fitzgerald was said to lie. Old hands spoke of that stretch of water quietly, as if sound carried farther there. Some said she settled slow enough for every man to step clear. They claimed she went down like a vessel that knew her duty was finished. No hull breach, no torn plates. Hatches sealed, paint unscarred, except across the front of the bridge, where the steel looked heat-blistered, as though something had tried to burn through from beneath. At certain angles, only when a diver's light struck sideways, the distortion almost formed letters. Most said corrosion patterning. A few said it looked like a word. Watchman. They logged the dive, filed their notes, and never volunteered again. Officials dismissed it. Men who worked the lakes did not argue. They simply stopped talking. But there are watchstanders, steady men, licensed men, who admit this much when November winds rise hard enough to swallow their voices. On certain nights, when radar blooms with snow and Superior runs black, a long freighter appears where no signal should be. She moves steady, wake straight as a ruler. No deck lights, no name on the bow. And on the bridge wing stands a figure, one hand resting against steel, head tilted slightly, listening. And the lake does not argue. Old sailors don't laugh at that story anymore. They just nod once and say, "He's still on watch."
Mac, what do you think they actually saw?
Something real. Just not something they understood. That's not very comforting. It's not supposed to be. Do you think he's still out there?
I think when someone spends their whole life standing watch, that becomes part of who they are. Even after they're gone, especially then. Still on watch.